since I mentioned Lixel, kind of like what I've seen out of him since they've brought him up. He's had a few chances. One of the few guys the last couple of nights who's like actually stood out.
Yeah, I would
he's
agree with that.
like low bar, like standing out when when only one guy scores over 2 games. Like, it's not that hard to stand out, I wouldn't say.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, because Forrester had both the goals. They got shut out.
Goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think they scored a ton in the game. Like, there haven't been much in the last
It's been
3
a rough
games.
go for the Flyers. Yeah.
But Lixel hasn't looked out of place. I've liked what I want to see more. But just a guy who's made a few things happen on a few games where not much else has happened. That's what I've seen out of him.
I think he's been noticeable, and that's a big step over where he was the last time he got an extended look, which was last season. He had that one game where he had fewer than 10 minutes against Arizona. This season, probably shouldn't even have played, but Ryan Palin got sick, so he jumps in. I'm comparing this Lixell to the one we saw last season when he got an actual extended audition. I think this version looks more noticeable. He's trying more things. We talked about this on the post game after the loss to the Bruins. He's got 7 shots on goal in his last 2 games. That's a positive. He got a secondary assist on the second Tyson Forrester goal, so he's got a point. He's got something to pin himself to in terms of the score sheet. My big question with Lixell, and this is going to remain my question with him until he either makes it clear that he's an NHL caliber player, or is the Flyers make it clear he's no longer really in the mix, aside from just being an injury call up, which maybe. I just wonder if he is something of a tweener, where he very clearly can score at the AHL level. He's got 28 points in 34 games this year. He had 45 and 53 last year. He is a good AHL point producer, undeniably. I do not know if he can be a good NHL point producer, and if he can't be a good NHL point producer, I don't think I see him as a 4th liner.
That's especially considering, now you can say, well, why can't we just have a skilled 4th line? Good question. What we're seeing is, like, we think we know who's going to be a 4th, like, the type of guy who's going to be a 4th liner on this team is just different than what maybe a Lixell, if that's all he is. Like, what exactly are you going to be? Like, we know Forster, like, he's going to have to score. He's going to have to do, like, Brink, you're going to have to put up points, man. Like, if Lixell isn't a top 9 guy, is he going to be able to adapt his game to what this coaching staff wants a 4th liner to be?
Exactly.
Like, I think that's the big question with him going forward. And maybe he just starts to put up a ton of points.
I don't, and I'm of the opinion that I know a lot of people get critical of the Flyers. It's like, well, they just make their 4th liners traditional 4th liners. To me, it's less about that you have to be physical and all that stuff. It's more about, if you're going to be an NHL 4th liner, can you succeed in 10 minutes a night? Can you provide value in a limited role? Because most scorers, not all, but most scorers need more minutes in order to get themselves into a game.
Everybody but Joel Farabee, apparently.
Everybody but Joel Farabee.
Yeah.
But seriously, and even Joel Farabee, he's still getting 16 to 18 minutes a night.
He's not playing 4th line minutes.
Yeah. My point is that it's a lot easier if your role as a 4th liner is you're going to go in hard on the forecheck and create havoc and just muck shit up. It's a lot easier to do that because you could theoretically do that on pretty much every shift. Whereas if you're a scorer, sometimes for scorers, it can you have to take risks in order to score points, generally speaking. That's just the way it goes. You have to be willing to have a turnover, maybe flub a pass, you misfire on a shot or something. If you're getting 15 plus minutes a night, you make that mistake. And hey, in a minute, I'm going to be right back out there. 2-3 minutes, I'm going to be right back out there. I'm going to be able to make up for that. If you're getting 9 minutes a night, if you make a mistake, you might not be out there for another 5-6 minutes. And not even because you were benched, but just because that's the way the rotation goes. Yeah. And you're a 4th liner, and that's your role.
Suddenly there's a penalty. Yeah. Now there's 2 minutes where you're definitely not getting out there.
Exactly. So to me, it's less about, does Lixell play a 4th line game? Like, no, he's not Garnet Hathaway. He's certainly not Nick Delorier in terms of style. But, I look at somebody like Scott Laughton. Scott Laughton, I know he's having a bad year this year, but Scott Laughton is a skilled guy. He can make plays. But Scott Laughton can also make plays and be useful in 9 minutes a night if that's how it goes. I question whether Lixell can do what makes him good at the AHL level in those kinds of limited minutes. And I also question whether he can score enough at the NHL level to warrant 15 minutes a night, even as a third liner. I want him to prove me wrong, because it's not even really proving me wrong. I'm just skeptical. It was the same skepticism I had about David Kasha. I had that same feeling of him being a tweener. I like Lixel more because I think Lixel is a more skilled player on the whole than Kasha is. But I have the same concern of, if he's not a third liner at the NHL level, can he be an NHLer? Because I don't think he fits as a fourth liner.
We all silly like the mayor.